Welcome to the ThriveHer podcast, where we empower women to take control of their unique health conditions and wellness journey during perimenopause and beyond. Our goal is to help you dream big and reach your fullest potential in every part of your life. Each week, the podcast dives into expert insights, natural solutions, and inspiring stories to support you on your journey. And now, here's your host, your no-nonsense naturopath, Rochelle Waite.
Perimenopause doesn't begin in your ovaries. It begins in your brain, specifically in the part of your brain that governs calm, the part that decides whether a Tuesday afternoon feels manageable or completely overwhelming, the part that for the last 20-odd years has been quietly receiving a signal that has told you to stand down, to stop firing, to let you rest. That signal's progesterone. And it started declining before you had any idea that any of this was relevant to you. Now, this is not a story about hot flushes. It's not a story about irregular periods or the end of your reproductive years. It is a story of a neurosteroid that was running your emotional regulation, your sleep, and your stress tolerance in the background for decades. And what happens to a woman when it starts to go quiet? Well, let's talk about that. When most women hear progesterone, they think reproduction, menstrual cycles, pregnancy, maybe HRT. That is about 20% of the story. Progesterone's a neurosteroid and it acts directly on your brain, specifically on the GABA receptors. That's the same pathway that anti-anxiety medication and sleep medications target. GABA is your primary brake pedal. It's what your nervous system allows to slow down, to switch off the threat response, to let the body move into rest. Progesterone has been keeping that brake pedal functional your entire adult life. It also buffers cortisol. It supports serotonin synthesis. It promotes deep restorative stages of sleep where your body actually repairs rather than just lying unconscious. It has anti-inflammatory properties your immune system has been relying on quietly. Now, you didn't notice any of this because it was working. You don't notice your brakes until they start to fail. When it declines and the symptoms arrive, the anxiety, the sleep disruption, the mood instability, the senses that your internal volume dial has been turned up without your permission, there seems to be no framework for it, no language, no map. Perimenopause is not primarily an estrogen story in the beginning. It starts as a progesterone story. Now, progesterone is the first hormone to meaningfully decline, and this happens in your late 30s to 40s, and often a full decade before estrogen becomes significantly erratic. Your cycles may still be regular. Standard hormone panels may still come back in the normal range, but progesterone is already declining, and the brain that it has been relying on that signal for decades starts to notice. This is why we see women in their late 30s and early 40s describe a shift they can't explain. You know, the anxiety that appeared from nowhere, the sleep that stopped being restorative, the irritability that arrives in the 2 weeks before a period and feels completely disproportionate to anything actually happening in their life. The sense that their nervous system has become less tolerant, less able to absorb the ordinary friction of a busy life. Not imagining it, not just stressed, progesterone declining. Your nervous system is losing its buffer. Now, the clinical term for the 2 weeks before your period where progesterone drops is the luteal phase. When progesterone decline becomes significant, the luteal phase becomes symptomatic in a way that it hasn't been before. And this is often the first clinical sign that perimenopause has started. Not hot flushes, not irregular periods, but a luteal phase that suddenly feels unmanageable. When the symptoms of progesterone decline arrive, as I said, the anxiety, mood shifts, sleep disruption, the sense that you're just not coping in a way that you used to, they present as a mental health picture and they get treated as one. Anxiety medication, antidepressants, a referral to a psychologist, when the root mechanism is hormonal, and that goes unnamed. The treatment addresses the symptom and not the cause, and you can spend years, sometimes decades, managing a presentation that actually had a hormonal explanation from the beginning. The reason this happens is not complicated. The symptom picture of early perimenopause and the symptom picture of anxiety and depression overlap significantly. Without the hormonal context, the clinical picture looks identical. With it, the pathway, though, is completely different. Now, what I see consistently in clinic is women who never connected the timing, the fact that it started when their cycle started changing, that it worsens in the second half of every month, and that it arrived without a psychological trigger, no life event, no obvious cause, just a gradual shift in who they were. The hormonal explanation was always there in the pattern, it just wasn't being read. You already have the clinical picture. Your body's been giving it to you for a while. So let's make sure you can read it. Now, declining progesterone looks like anxiety that is worse in the second half of your cycle. It looks like waking between 2 and 4 a.m. without a clear reason. It looks like a nervous system that used to handle a full week without much drama and now finds the same week genuinely overwhelming. It looks like premenstrual symptoms that have worsened over the last year or two. More irritability, more teariness, more breast tenderness, more of that feeling that your skin doesn't quite fit. It does not look like hot flushes. It does not look like irregular periods. It does not look like what most people picture when they say perimenopause. And here is what that means clinically. Progesterone decline is not stress. It is not burnout. It is not anxiety disorder. It can, however, look like all three. But treating any of these without understanding the hormonal mechanism underneath it is treating the smoke and leaving the fire. The symptoms will keep coming back because the mechanism hasn't been addressed. Stress management helps, but it can't replace a declining neurosteroid. That distinction is the difference between managing this stage of life and actually moving through it. The protocols, what to investigate, what supports the progesterone pathway, how to work with your cycle. These are all the things we build inside the ThriveHer tribe because your clinical picture is not the same as everybody else's. The answer has to fit yours. Next week, we're going to talk about the fact that your immune system changed when your hormones did. And most women are never told about that. So I'm going to explain exactly what that means. Now, if today's episode gave you a name for something you've been living with but couldn't explain, I want you to do something with that. Because the women who sit with this information and don't act on it are in the same place 6 months from now. The ones who do something aren't. On Tuesday, the 30th of June, I am running a ThriveHer LIFE Masterclass. This is a deep clinical session built around exactly this kind of conversation. The hormonal mechanisms that govern how you feel, why the standard picture misses them, what you can actually do. If you want a clinical framework that fits your stage of life, this is where that can happen. The tickets are $97. If you're already in the ThriveHer tribe, your seat is included. Everything about it can be found at thriveher.vip/links, but I'll throw it in the show notes. Now, if this episode gave language to something a woman in your life has been carrying without explanation, send it to her. She's not imagining it. She's not stressed. She has a progesterone story, and now she has somewhere to take it. Until next time, keep believing in yourself, keep striving for more, and keep thriving because your best life is just ahead.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the ThriveHer podcast. We hope you found valuable insights and practical tips to help you on your path to achieving everything you want in life. Remember, with the right support, you can achieve anything. If you love this episode, please share it on Instagram stories and tag No Nonsense Naturopath. Also, if you enjoy the podcast, you'll love a ThriveHer membership. Check it out at thriveher.vip. Each interaction helps others find this valuable information. Connect with us on social media and join our community of thriving women. Until next time, stay empowered, stay healthy, and keep thriving.